Good evening, America. How are you doing? Uh, Seems like there's a strange amount of British people in here as well. How are you all still up? Terry Wuckfit, do you not go to bed? No? Bed's for losers. You can sleep when you're dead. Anyway, Maggie, Sadwings, Steve Elliott's got an excuse. He's in Thailand. Chris, how you doing? Wonder why? The evil druid, crank the volume up and give my lefty neighbour something to cry over. Good. I'm good at annoying neighbours. Hiya, Maggie. Right. I was just going through the BBC website, looking at the US news there. Where are the New York Times getting all the money from? You know, that's like a conspiracy theory. When they point out that the mainstream media, the really big print organisations in the United States, they've either been bought out by Silicon Valley titans, like Bezos, obviously owns the Washington Post, or they've been given illicit money. It's very similar to the BBC, how the BBC get taxpayers' money, and then they use the taxpayers' money to bump up the left-wing media that doesn't sell jack shit. Like The Guardian. Who buys The Guardian? They sell less copies than Middlesbrough FC programmes outside the stadium, and nobody wants to read the Borough programmes anymore, because they used to be quite good, but now it's all just like, no swearing, invite the kids into the fan zone. Kimberley's in New York. Northern New York, to be precise. Isn't it Baltic in New York? You know, weird thing when you're British, you always think of America as just being sunny, because all we ever think of is, like, I don't know, California and Florida. But what you don't realise till you move here is it's basically a fucking continent. You know, the England fits in California, that's one state. America's mad how big it is. You know, literally like 3,500 miles across the fucking thing. Continent for a country. I believe that's why the Japanese were like, yeah, we're fucked. You know, when they actually took stock of everything after Pearl Harbor. Apologies, I worked out twice today because I'm fucking nails. I'm obviously being I'm not blowing my own trumpet there. I don't really think I'm nails. I'm merely rock. It's pretty weird, but yeah, the New York Times is, I suspect, doing what The Guardian does, i.e. benefiting from benefactors. So yeah, if you didn't know this, this isn't just me rambling. The Guardian, the single biggest buyer of Guardian newspapers in the United Kingdom is the BBC. So not content with simply taking hundreds of millions, well, in fact, it's billions, isn't it, of taxpayers' money, all them TV licenses, direct to the BBC to pay for woke indoctrination. They also buy something like, I believe it's about 250,000 copies of The Guardian every year. So it's just total bollocks, isn't it? New York Times has got the money to buy a popular word game. Ow. If they're not getting money off Soros or one of these globalist fucking woke champagne socialists, where they're getting the money from? I mean, Kimberley's in New York. Who buys the New York Times, really? They can't be shifting more than a couple of 100,000 copies in like a month. I don't see where the money's coming from. 3.2 billion a year, is that how much the TV license is? That's fucking unbelievable. So like I said, they're already getting over 3 billion quid. But then they use that money to fire it out to other, like branches of a fucking gnarled tree, is the power of the communist indoctrination that took over the UK. Yeah, homeless shelters, it's that. Maybe homeless shelters. Fish and chips, there's a good use for New York Times or The Guardian. Fish and chips. Maybe the chippies use them all. Because you can eat out of them because you don't want to read the fucking things, do you? China's Irish trying to get off the drink. China's a living stereotype. Sorry, excuse me, I've got something stuck in my teeth. Yeah, so this is bollocks, isn't it? They've just suddenly, they're miracling money out their arsehole. It says purchase the game for an undisclosed 7-figure sum. The free and simple game was created by software engineer Josh Wardle. It was released in October and now boasts millions of players. It was incredibly pleased to announce a deal with the New York Times and announced it on Twitter, saying he had long admired the New York Times approach to their games and the respect with which they treat their players. Respect. New York Times and respect doesn't go together. Have you seen how there is no respect for the New York Times? I know maybe it's in the UK you don't keep on top of this, but seriously, I just sort of had to play around on the website for a bit to see if I could find some of the woke bollocks that the New York Times post. And it's like the BBC. If I want to look for good BBC stories for the BBC Spews, I'll just go on Google and type things like BBC LGBT or BBC microaggression, and you just get deluged with ridiculous stories. And I tried it with the New York Times. I just typed in New York Times woke stories, and obviously the right wingers have took care of it on places like Instagram and Twitter. The people have laughed at the stupid shit they've wrote. Here's a good one that made me laugh. Just to show you, those of you across the pond that don't really follow it, just to show you how bad the New York Times is. Look at this one. Searching for a Jesus who looks like me. You know the weird thing about this thing with the woke that I've never understood? Do you ever feel as if anything that's important to you, whether it's your entertainment or your religious belief or anything at all, do you feel as if the people in it have to look like you? It's another nonsense, non-talking point that the woke have invented in, recent times, where it's an issue that nobody's ever complained about, that they insist on constantly bringing to the fore. Because when I was a kid, honestly, we sort of went through, in the 90s, like people like me often talk about the 90s was almost a golden age by comparison to the rank stupidity that you see taking over the world now. It was almost that the black community was going through a sort of resurgence in the 90s, and they were getting the shit together. Because all the top stuff on TV when I was a kid were sort of the black community in the United States. It was The Cosby Show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. There was a few that were mega popular. And at no point, especially bear in mind the England in the 90s, seriously, check the census data. England in 1990 was about 97% white. There wasn't a fucking black community in England in the 90s, which is why it's all the more laughable now they try and pretend that there was fucking black Romans and black Vikings and black fucking Braveheart. William Wallace looked like fucking Idris Elba. At no point was anyone in England. It was massively popular. So again, instead of talking about woke talking points, just bring up facts that normal common sense people can grasp, and you don't need to present your findings via the medium of a spreadsheet. Like I always talk about the left. Source. You don't need source. You know when something's right, when something's true. And it proves the lie behind this woke drivel. Because at no point, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Cosby Show, massive shows in the UK, Desmond's as well. Do you remember Desmond's on Channel 4? They were all really popular. And nobody ever sat there going, I'm not watching this shit. The hero doesn't look like me. Fucking Fat Albert. That's a good example there. Fat Albert. Do you think the only people that watched Fat Albert were morbidly obese African Americans? I don't fucking look like Fat Albert. I'm still happy to watch it. Funny old thing, I don't look like fucking Top Cat either. Or Ren and Stimpy. Or fucking He-Man. I mean, it's so stupid. And we all know it's stupid, but the woke pretend it isn't because it's part of their ideology. to otherize. They're the ones that do it. Try and convince you that our popular entertainment was sort of part of some nefarious fucking scheme instead of evolving organically when a bloke thought, oh, this will be entertaining, and wrote it down and said, what do you think of that? And they went, yeah, let's make a TV show. And they make programs like Saved by the fucking Bell. They didn't sit there going, how can we otherize the black community? It's like, because they're bitter and twisted, they try and shove square pegs through round holes and make everything fit their ideology. It's painfully obvious. Or like Sherlock Holmes would say, right, it's when a cop decides who did it before he gets all of the information, and then he desperately seeks information to prove his confirmation bias, to prove that it was the person that he thought it was before he started looking into it. And it tricks your brain, and that's what they do with everything. They think everything's a conspiracy. He-Man. Oh, it's the patriarchy trying to indoctrinate young men. No, it was just some bloke who thought, you know what would be cool as fuck? A big bullhead with a big sharp sword on a fucking big armoured cat kicking fuck out of a skeleton that does steroids. It's like, nobody thought of this stuff. I mean, don't get me started on it, because it'll get me on Lord of the Rings tirade again. It rages me. It rages me. This is what I always say about all the woke stuff. They just invent shit, pull it out their arse, pull out of thin air, and then present it as factual. Lord of the Rings, don't they now? They've started saying, oh yeah, well actually, Tolkien wrote this, and what he was thinking was the orcs were clearly the black community, and the elves was clearly the fucking patriarchy, and heteronormative, word soup, fucking bollocks. The AOC spits out, the fucking boss-eyed communist in chief. It's just total nonsense. He didn't think that. He just thought, this will be a cool story. He wanted to write a really good English fantasy story. That's it. He wasn't like going, now I will make the black community evil. You've just decided that. And that's what I hate about these postmodernists. They don't create anything good. They just criticise things that other people create. They don't come up with anything good. They just ride on the coattails of their betters and criticise. We can all do that. We can all criticise. It's fucking easy to criticise. It's not so easy to create. So anyway, look at this bollocks. Searching for Jesus who looks more like me. Because he needs to. He fucking needs to. Does he? There's a fucking billion Christians in the world. I didn't hear all of the black community in the last fucking 1,000 years who believed in Christianity going, fucking hell, I'm not following that cracker motherfucker. That's not what happened. It's not important. If you're a Christian, he's fucking God, for fuck's sake. He's God. He's not a bloke. He's fucking God. Why does he need to look like you? Nobody thinks they need to look like you. They don't. That's why Red Dwarf was wildly popular. The cat looks fuck all like me. He's an anthropomorphic cat black man in a fucking purple suede suit. It didn't need to look like me. He was my favourite character when I was a bairn. Doesn't need to look like me. You know it and I know it, but do the woke communists know it? No, look at this. Look, again, I won't read you all. Close your eyes and imagine Jesus in front of you. The man kneeling in prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, Chinese? Is the man kneeling at the table at the Last Supper, Navajo? Is the man dragging his cross towards Golgotha, Nigerian? Yeah, these are the big questions that the fucking New York Times wants to talk about. You do not know the way. Like Jesus is pulling his cross towards the hill. Can you tell me where the crucifixion area is, mate? You do not know the way. Look, this confounded... Look here, it says... likely as not, the image that presents itself to you is a live bearded man with shoulder-length chestnut hair, and whether he is a dashboard Jesus or the 100-foot Christo Redentor, he is likely to be male and white. Yeah. It's fucking brilliant, isn't it? This confounded me as you lying bastard. Unless you were raised by fucking Mao Zedong. It didn't confound you as a young child. It didn't. It didn't. You're a liar, communist. What's this communist called? Oh. Eric Coppage. Eric Communist. Let's see what he looks like. Alright, some black dude. Yeah, Eric, you're a liar. And I know for a fact, Eric, look at him with his fucking Brooks Brothers sweater on and his fucking nice shirt. And probably his white spouse. He's Eric Coppage, like everyone else at the New York Times, because the parallels between the New York Times and the fucking BBC are quite astounding. Eric Coppage is a middle class fucking arsehole, and he's a liar. And there's no fucking way when he was a child it confounded him that Jesus was white. There's no fucking way. Absolutely not. He's a middle class arsehole who spent most of his childhood with middle class white kids. And his mum's probably a fucking doctor. It's like in his dad's Uncle Phil. There's a fucking nice. There's a leading from the Fresh Prince analogies. He's a middle class arsehole, and there is absolutely no fucking way it confounded him as a young child. No way. Then he went to some Ivy League fucking university, and he got his head crammed full of communist identity politics and woke bullshit. And all of a sudden, him and his granny were fucking disgusted that some goddamn cracker morpho was the son of man. It's fucking ridiculous. Even at that age, with only a peripheral awareness of the brutal attacks on civil rights. Lying bastard. Worshipping someone who didn't look like us seemed incongruous. It's God, you silly bastard. He doesn't look like any of us if he's God. Does he? He's a fucking ghost. As it turns out, God, as depicted in the form of Jesus Christ, was beginning to look more and more like me, only I didn't know it. By the middle of the 20th century, the global centre of Christianity had begun shifting away from Europe to Africa and Asia and Latin America. Pictures of Jesus hanging in churches were looking more like the people instead of the standard white portraits. Fuck off. Japan and Jamaica. Are you honestly telling me that if you went into a church in Tokyo, a Christian church in like fucking 1978, fucking Jesus looked like what, Mickey Rooney when he was in blackface? Do you honestly think that? You go to a church in Tokyo and he's like, hello. No. It's the same bog standard paintings. They don't think about these things too much. Like I say, like they lie about it. They don't think about it that much. There's probably a few hundred famous fucking pictures, and they just photocopy them and put them up. There's no way they were fucking in Jamaica. Like a Christian church in fucking Jamaica. Do you think the Jesus there looks like fucking Bob Marley? What a load of bollocks. Anyway, I'm not reading you the whole thing. It's fucking laughable. This is just what I'm saying though. It's exactly the same as the BBC. Look at that headline. From the formerly great, world-famous New York Times. Searching for a Jesus who looks more like me. What a fucking load of shit. If you're doing that, you're a sad bastard. I was saying today how like Scottish nationalists are basically sad bastards because they only talk about one thing. They're not normal like us. The woke aren't normal. We do like, I like football and rugby and walking and running and drawing and reading books. I'm currently going through another David Gemmell book because I haven't read them for about 10 years. And I love to draw and paint my miniatures, and I like Warhammer, and there's lots of things I like. And also like a bit of politics. The woke aren't like that. They don't have any hobbies. All they care about is this shit, which is why they start cramming it into everything. I want Jesus to be a fucking woke cunt. just shut up. Go to church. Get on with your life. You fucking sad bastards. Does my head in. Right? So I'm not talking about that anymore. You've learned America. Trust me. The New York Times is, because they're all ideologues, you can't fit a cigarette paper between the differences of their beliefs. They're basically a carbon copy. Woke middle-class arseholes infest the BBC. Woke middle-class arseholes infest the New York Times. And they don't have diversity of opinion, and they don't have any class diversity at all. They're all woke middle-class arseholes, and they're all boring cunts. And frankly, if you were stuck in an elevator with a bunch of fucking New York Times staffers, you would be praying for fucking death after about 20 minutes. I guarantee you that. Right, shall we talk about fucking something else? How about this? Russian-Ukraine tensions, powers clash at the UN Security Council. Isn't it weird how the left have turned into warmongers now? Don't you think that's strange? Why are they all so desperate to go to war all the time? Weird that, innit? Trump, for all of his the talk about him being a prick, he actually was. I know he's a bit of a chop with the way he acts, Twitter and fucking having a pop at people. But even his critics must concede, on foreign policy, he was almost a savant. Like, he was fucking brilliant at it. He got pally with North Korea. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody. They were going, oh my God, we're going to have World War III. Look what he did with North Korea. It was genuinely impressive. He basically made friends with a little fat cunt. Like I've said, because he employed the peace through superior firepower. He basically went, go on then, fatty, press the button, let's see who wins. And then he shit himself, like bullies do. And the next thing, he was eating out the palm of his hand. He took the Chinese to task. He took the North Koreans to task. He on foreign policy, he was fucking brilliant. The only hiccup I think he made was when he dropped a few bombs on Syria. And I think he did that because he insisted on doing something because he wanted to appear strong. But he did just enough to deter the boots on the ground in Syria without massively escalating it. So he turned out to be a fucking savant. The man was spot on foreign policy. Really good. The Emperor Protects Sadwings has been reading his Warhammer 40k fluff. I'm impressed. So you can't slag him off for that. Now look what we've got. The left want to go to war. I watched Tucker on Fox and he's like, just saying, what are we doing? Why do we care about Ukraine so much? Could it be because the presidents took money off the Ukrainians? Could it be because the Ukrainian government's ridiculously corrupt and they're probably backhandering our own politicians? And they're saying, oh yeah, Russian. I mean, honestly, I was watching the footage on Mark Stein's show today because I love Mark Stein. And honestly, there's Canadian politicians, I shit you not, going on the telly in Canada and saying, oh, you know, all these people slagging off Justin Trudeau, I think they must be Russians, them. You couldn't make it up. With a straight face, they're going on there and saying, oh, probably Russians, them cunts. I mean, are they fucking mental? Like, I understand it's hard to face the mirror and face a difficult truth and concede that you've been misled for the last fucking 5 years. But if you're at the left of the aisle now, has it not sank in? Has it not sank in you've been misled? The fucking Russians. Am I a Russian? I mean, I've heard it. I was on Twitter arguing with some silly cow and she was like, oh, Gopnik says no. Basically called me a Russian because I was saying good things about Trump. It's like, these people are fucking crazy. Mark Stein was like, oh yeah, I'll tell you what, if they're Russians, they've done their fucking spies are the best in the world. Born and raised in Canada, French Canadian, speak with a strong French accent, lived in Canada all your life, never even been to Russia. 10,000 fucking Russians. You couldn't make it up. It's the go-to answer for everything now. Who farted? Russians. You know what I mean? Like you drop your ass in the old folks' home by accident. Who was that? Russians. If you just shit yourself, you dirty bastard, it was the Russians, Grandma. There's one in that fucking cupboard. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I like to think, like I said, even most lefties now must see it. They must be sitting there going, Russia. They said it was Russia for Trump for 4 years. They didn't find any evidence. So now it's, oh, you're against climate change? Only if you're a Russian. You're against Extinction Rebellion? Only if you're a Russian. You don't like Trudeau? Only if you're a Russian. You don't like fucking Biden? Only if you're a Russian. It's fucking, everyone's a bot. You couldn't make it up. The Russians. Right? Fucking absolutely mental. I can't believe this. They come out with this shit. So yeah, just total bollocks. It said a US official said Washington's sanctions meant individuals close to the Kremlin would be cut off from the international financial system. This will end up fucking us. They'll tank my stock, these useless twats. Everything's going to shit under Biden. Russia's placed 100,000 troops and tanks near the frontiers. Yeah, there they all are, we know. Russian ambassador said there was no proof Russia was planning military action and its troop buildup was not confirmed by the UN. He said Russia often deployed troops on its own territory and that was none of Washington's business. Yeah, no fucking shit. And as I've told you guys before, Americans that are listening, trust me on this, the complex history of that region, it's fucking hard going. It's almost like Northern Ireland in the UK, right? It's 1,000 years of history, right? Northern Ireland didn't just start with the plantation of Ulster in 1609. It goes back way earlier than that. Elizabeth I was sending people to Ulster. And then there was mercenaries invited there when the Scandies were invading us. Like, that is a complex, deeply complicated, difficult issue that's 1,000 years in the making. It's not just like some shit for brains Irish American. It was about as Irish as a fucking chicken vindaloo. I'll go, oh yeah, the fucking up the rah. When was the plantation of Ulster? Plantation of what? They don't know anything. Oliver Cromwell, who? They're just gobbing off about something they don't know anything about. And that's what most Americans who were pro-war with Russia, that's what they're doing now. And I will concede some of them are Republicans. This is bipartisan, neocon, neoliberal, modern business titans who want to profit by fucking having a war, regardless of party. And it should have absolutely fuck all to do with us. Most of the people in eastern Ukraine don't give a fuck about Russians coming in. They speak Russian. Certainly the Crimea's fucking... 90% of them are ethnically Russian. It's not like Russia is just invading fucking Spain. It's a deeply complex issue and we should have nothing to fucking do with it. Does that make me a Russian bot? Beep boop bop. I'm working for the Kremlin. Beep boop. Hate Biden. Love Trump. Russia. It's ridiculous. You couldn't make it up. And you know what makes me laugh about that? Them saying, oh, anyone slagging off Trudeau's a Russian bot. It's like, oh, yeah. Because Trudeau, he's such a scary butch, you know, standing up for the Canadian people. Butch, strong Trudeau. Oh, Putin's terribly scared of him. So he's deployed his legions of bots to fucking stand up for him. Yeah, oh, he's quaking in his boots at the fucking soy boy in chief. Do you know what I mean? I could possibly understand it if they had a really, really sort of saber-rattling conservative prime minister in Canada. But as if Putin's shitting himself because of fucking Trudeau and Canada. Canada couldn't even beat the fucking British in a war. Canada's got fuck all. Like, ooh, Canada. Quick, deploy thousands of Russian bots. Who gives a fuck about Canada? I'm not trying to be mean about Canada. I like Canada. I like Canadians. But look at the population. Look at the size of the military. Look at the military spending. It's fucking Canada. If you think Putin's sitting there going, we need to come up with a counter-argument for the stalwart, iron-jawed hero Trudeau and the devastation that could be wrought by the Canadian legions of fucking mess tin repair regiments. I mean, what? And the 12 boats that comprise the Navy, as if they give a fuck about the bloody Canadians. It's absolutely fucking absurd. The whole thing is absurd. The story is absurd. Russia, they're correct. It's none of our business. Ultimately, I'm going to have to fuck off. It's gone 8 o'clock. Ultimately, we can end on that paragraph. He said Russia deploys troops on its own territory. It's in its own territory. And that was none of Washington business. It's none of their business. Ultimately, the woke cunts want you to believe that we should have no concerns or issues about the massive, porous southern border of the United States, which they've encouraged mass illegal migration, people trafficking, drug mules, prostitution, fucking you name it. They have encouraged it for fucking years. As soon as Biden took over, he downed tools, stopped building the wall, encouraged illegal immigration. Millions of people swamped across that border. Criminals, traffickers, pimps and pushers and fucking pedos and rapists and the world's worst scum. As well as economic migrants. I'm not having a pop at everyone. Again, don't want to be misquoted like they did with Trump. But they said that border doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And we know criminals use it. And we know people traffickers use it. And we know heroin mules use it. And we know it's fueling the fucking drug epidemic in the United States. We even know the Chinese use it. It's a shit show. And they want you to believe that the southern border's fuck all. We don't even need to worry about it. But you know what you do need to worry about? A fucking tiny little border on another continent where all the people basically speak Russian anyway. And it's a complex history and most of them don't care if the Russians fucking invade anyway. It's like, you're not meant to worry about your own shit. But you're meant to worry about that. If you believe this, good luck to you. Because you need more help than I can provide. You've got a severe mental problem. But try and be objective and think about this for yourselves. If you believe that a fucking border that runs 2,000 miles across the entire southern United States and is used by criminal gangs is not a big deal, but a shitty little border on another continent is a big deal, you are a fucking maniac. And I don't know how else I can put it. You're a fucking maniac. It's like worrying about the house 4 blocks away is being burgled whilst a large escaped convict is raping your grandmother in your fucking kitchen. Right? That's just priorities, yeah? It's like worrying about the fucking house 10 streets over burning down while Charles Bronson's just kicked your bedroom door down and he's got a big spiky dildo and he's like, I'm gonna fucking have you tonight, son. That's it. Who are you more worried about? The house 5 blocks away or your fucking ring piece now that Charles Bronson's just kicked your fucking bedroom door off its hinges? Yeah? I'll leave it with that pleasant thought. That's the best analogy I can use. Yeah? The Ukrainian border is some random cunt's house is on fire 10 blocks away. And the southern border with Mexico is Charlie Bronson, booted your doors off the hinges, and he's coming in fucking dry. He's coming in dry whether you like it or not. And Americans, sorry, that's not a good analogy because you'll think I'm on about an aging or dead actor. I'm on about the burly, Herculean British prisoner, Charles Bronson, known for grotesque acts of terrifying violence. And he'd be willing to commit a gross act of terrifying violence on your fucking back doors. Right. That'll do us for one eat. Good evening, America. Good morning, Britain. Thanks for watching. I'll be back at 7 p.m. UK time. Yeah. The only other thing I'll end on is if you can fucking afford some stocks and shares in Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed, anyone else who bombs the shit out of people, might be worth doing. Because quite clearly, whereas Trump turned out to be an anti-war foreign policy savant, Joey fucking Bungalow Biden's probably going to fuck up one war, Afghanistan, and end up dragging us into another one. Because he's got the IQ of a fucking pork pie. And that's a fact. All right? Thanks for listening. God bless America. And God save the Queen. If you can be bothered. I'm sort of lukewarm on the royal family at this point. All right. Cheers, guys. I'll see you later. Good night.